Hello my mellow fellows, or should I say my dazzling demons. Now, I know this isn't my usual content, but it might shock some of you to learn that I watch other things besides Bob's Burgers. I love so many shows and I want to start talking about them too. Not this week though. This week will be me sort of complaining more than usual if I'm honest, but lovingly of course. Anyways, as you can tell, today I want to talk about Hazbin Hotel. Now, I'm in a very unique position. I am probably one of the few people who can actually give you an unbiased look at Hazbin Hotel as a TV show. Why? Because I am not a part of the fan base whatsoever. I haven't seen Hell of a Boss, I don't know who the creator is, I don't know any Hazbin lore outside the show or characters, and I did not watch the YouTube pilot. Truthfully, I didn't even know there was a YouTube pilot until I was on episode like 7. And by then, I felt like it was a little too late to go back because I was already deep in it. So truthfully, I am a fresh pair of eyes when it comes to the series. I have no preconceived notions, expectations, or opinions going into the show. This is my first time seeing it, and I'm only judging from what I see in the show. If it's not in the show, I don't know anything about it. My only exposure to the show was seeing people have made videos on it and seeing random posts on social media, but that's about it. And I don't really engage with it, I just keep scrolling. So I have very minimal contact with this show or its fan base or anything about it. I literally just saw the show and just decided to watch it out of curiosity. And oh boy, did my curiosity lead me to a crazy experience. With that big disclaimer out the way, let's finally talk about my first impressions of Hazbin Hotel. Let's start off with the art style. I personally really love the art in this show. It's so unique and fun to look at. The color palette was aesthetically pleasing for me personally. I love all the warm tones and colors of the animation, and it strangely felt cozy given the nature of the show. This show has its own style, and I can respect that. I love how all the red tones of hell contrast the pretty pastel bluish colors of heaven. Granted, it's not an original concept for hell to be really red and heaven to be light and fluffy colors, but still, I feel like the show pulls it off really well without it feeling generic, you know? I think they did a good job with how the world looks as a whole. I even appreciate how there's different parts of hell. For example, our main characters live in a dirty, chaotic downtown district, while the cannibal district is all nice and pristine looking, or where the V's live in particular being more techy and trendy. Granted, it's hell no matter where you go, but I like the idea of it being a whole society down there with diverse neighborhoods. I also love the look of these characters. My personal favorite character designs are Husk, Vaggie, Alastor, Lucifer, Charlie, Velvet, and Sir Pentious. Oh, and that cannibal lady and Mimsy are both really cute. I think her name was Mimsy. I really don't remember. Mimsy feels right. Now, I would say that I greatly enjoy Valentino's pimp aesthetic, especially the fur, but the thought of giving that man a compliment pisses me off, so I'm just going to vaguely hint that I do like his character design very much. We'll get to him eventually, but aesthetically I do like the way he looks. I don't hate anybody's character designs in particular, but you can tell which were the favorites, but I'll get to that later. But for now, I'll say I do like the art and the aesthetics. It was definitely a highlight personally for me, especially since I'm not really used to the Hazbin / Hell of a Boss art style. I do like the way it looks more than I originally thought I would, though the first episode had this really weird janky camera work going on during her song that kind of annoyed me very much. It kind of like jet all over the place, you know? Like, I totally get staging and camera work play big parts in these things, but they just overdid it. But for the most part, I think the animation was perfectly fine. Not anything to write home about, not anything to really complain about besides that one thing. Now let's move on to the music. The music, for better or for worse, is the best part of the show. I do think that the quality of the music outclassed the quality of the actual show. The songs were like mini music videos and I loved a lot of them. Half of them went straight to my playlist immediately, and I'll give you guys a rundown of my personal favorite songs. I hated Adam, but Hell is Forever was a straight banger. At first I thought he was a little boring and just annoying, but like hearing the song kind of just showed exactly who he is. Like, the dialogue didn't really convey who he was, but the song, I was like, oh, I get this guy now, you know, I get what you're going for. Stay Gone was so fun and theatrical. It was an early favorite song of mine. I like instantly loved it. I especially love the back and forth between them in the song. It perfectly captures their antagonistic one-sided relationship. Plus, it made me love Vox as a character and made me appreciate what Alastor brings to the show too. It was great. Poison was amazing and heartbreaking at the same time. The song makes you want to throw ass, but the content makes you want to cry. I think it was a perfect depiction of how Angel views his own situation. The lyrics hurt and are very sad, but the music video distracts you with all its glitz and glamour and all the dancing. He's hurting internally, but he uses his personality and other things to distract himself and others from the pain he's feeling. I understand why it could be seen as controversial. The subject matter is sensitive after all, but I see what they were trying to do. Whether or not it works depends on the specific viewer watching it. It's one of those things that everyone's going to feel differently about depending on their own life experiences, and that's perfectly fine and respectable. Loser Baby was my favorite song in the entire series. I love how bittersweet it is. Not only did it bond them as characters, but I found it oddly comforting. Like, yeah, our lives suck, but we're not alone in this hell. At least there's comfort in knowing that you don't have to suffer by yourself. Having a confidant in times of need can be healing in its own special way. Basically, it's the perfect representation of the phrase laugh to keep from crying. They are a gold star duo for me, and I just love them. Plus, I love anything Keith David is in. Y'all don't praise that man enough for his acting and music capabilities. The point is, Loser Baby went triple platinum in my house. Hell's Greatest Dad was another one that I personally loved. It was so fun. I just loved it. It gave very much "you have never had a friend like me" kind of vibes, you know? The feud on site had me dying. Alastor's duets are definitely a favorite of mine. Plus, we have Lucifer, who has a very angelic voice in general that I personally love. His warm voice pairs so nicely with Alastor's vintage radio style voice. Plus, the song is just funny to watch. They both are so petty and I loved it. You wouldn't think Alastor would stoop to being that petty, but seeing him do it, yeah, I loved it. It was great. I personally like Stay Gone just a tiny bit better than Hell's Greatest Dad, but I love both. Lastly, I liked More Than Anything quite a bit. It was a beautiful song that was beautifully shot. It was very cinematic and very sweet. Do I think the show earned this moment? No, not really, but we'll get to that. Independently from the plot, I actually love the song. The rest of the songs were great, but these are just my personal favorites. I didn't really hate any songs in the show, but I would say that the very first song wasn't my favorite. Now, with that being said, I do think that 2 songs in a 30-minute episode was a bit much, and that's coming from a girl who loves musicals. The thing is, some of that runtime that went into these big music videos could have been spent on the plot, characters, and world building. Granted, these songs do a better job of conveying how these characters feel in the moment, better than the actual dialogue does. However, because the music takes up about a third of the show, it does seem like they waste a lot of time with music rather than the actual TV show. It's kind of a double-edged sword, in my opinion. The music is absolutely the best part of the show, but if the show didn't have so much music, they could have used that extra time for actual storytelling. This show is only 8 episodes long and does try to do so much in that small amount of time. There are so many plots in the show that are rushed, underdeveloped, and skipped over, and there are so many things that happen off screen because they simply didn't have time for it. But you know what they did always have time for? A little 3-minute song and dance. To be honest, you don't even have to watch the show in its entirety. If you just string all the music videos together, you'll have the best parts of the show and most of the basic plot points right there. On the flip side, if you remove all the music from the show, you'll have a subpar mess. Yes, the music basically carries the show on its back, but the actual events of the show desperately needed that runtime that the music takes up. But without the music, the show isn't as worth watching. So my feelings on the music is pretty complicated. I love it, but it does come at a cost. Also, since I'm already complaining, one thing that did bother me about the music was that it was so abrupt. I've loved musicals all my life. Plus, I'm a theater kid, so trust me when I say I understand the framework of what makes musicals enjoyable. This show has a problem with the lead-in aspect of the musicals. Usually in musicals, songs start slowly. The dialogue naturally flows into the lyrics. The music typically starts in the background and slowly gets louder, and there is a noticeable transition from dialogue to song. The build up to the song and the switch feels natural. But in this show, sometimes the music just kind of starts abruptly, and it kind of scared me sometimes. There was no lead in or indication that singing was about to start. It was just boom, there's a song. And I was like, okay, I guess it's song time now. Now, sometimes that could work from a narrative perspective, right? If a scene is supposed to catch you off guard and be surprising, then yeah, starting a song abruptly can make sense. But rarely was that the case in this show. It just felt like they kind of left space in the script that said insert song here, and it was kind of annoying sometimes, if I'm honest, especially towards the end. Which leads me to my main criticism of the music section is I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the music and the script do not blend well tonally. They are on two different emotional levels. What I mean is the high emotion and tension that's in most of these songs feels so unearned and unnecessary, given the situation. Some of the scenes themselves don't have the same emotional weight as the songs that follow them. I want to feel the emotions before the songs even start. I shouldn't have to wait for the songs to fully get how deeply this is affecting the characters. The lyrics are deep, but the dialogue is very shallow. So it makes the emotions in the music feel so unwarranted and overdramatic compared to what's actually happening in the story. For example, when Vaggie was singing her song about being Charlie's armor or whatever, I was genuinely confused. First off, the song felt kind of out of place for me. It kind of felt like she was being a little dramatic, for lack of better terms, because to be honest, the trust exercise failure wasn't even that bad. Sure, it didn't go how Charlie wanted, but it was just a trust exercise. Plus, it wasn't completely on Vaggie, right? The others suggested bad stuff too, so it wasn't just Vaggie mess it up. It was kind of like a group effort of messing it up. But the thing is, Charlie wasn't even really that mad about it, and honestly, the situation didn't even seem that serious. I thought it was just kind of like a slight frustration thing, but Vaggie kind of took it to heart. Suddenly, Vaggie starts contemplating on what she is without Charlie, and it felt so out of nowhere. Like, girl, calm down. It is not that serious. What happened? Like, I understand the trope of what's happening. I just don't think episode 3 was the time or place to pull this big emotional moment about her self-identity, especially when the situation didn't really question her self-identity, you know? Like, where did you get, how did you get to doubting your self-worth? Girl. Then the song on top of that just made it so much more confusing, because the song was even more intense than what was actually going on. Then on top of that, the song had the nerve to be a duet with Twinkle Toes, another person whose plot came out of nowhere. Like, what are you girls talking about? How did we get here? This problem is more so with character writing than the actual music itself. I just think that the music accidentally highlights how big of a problem the writing can be. The emotional beats that the songs are trying to hit are not hitting because the dialogue and the writing didn't build up enough to get us there. You know, like, I wasn't at this point with her. But on top of that, Vaggie's big declaration to dedicate herself to Charlie did nothing for me. Why? Well, it's because I didn't really know her character enough yet to care. I didn't really know her relationship with Charlie enough to care. Neither one of them really got enough screen time for me to care about their relationship. And this was in episode 3. Like, how am I supposed to relate to what she's talking about if I don't really know what she's talking about? You know, I wasn't there for her and Charlie's relationship, so I don't know what the problems are. And also, who the hell is Carmilla, or whatever Twinkle Toes' name is? In this same song, this lady, who I don't know, was singing about protecting her kids, who again, I don't know. I don't know either one of these women. I don't care enough about them at this point of the show for this song to really matter to me. I can't feel it with them. I felt like I was missing so much context with these characters, which makes the music even more confusing to me. This was the 3rd episode, and already this show kind of expected me to care about and understand these two characters who barely got any screen time at this point. Vaggie was barely in the show at this point, and this was Camilla's first episode. Why would I care about her kids? Like, why would I care about her killing the angel and caring about her kids? Why would I care about that? And why would I care about Vaggie when she's only had a handful of screen time up until this point? I really don't know either one of them enough to care. And if I can't connect to these characters yet, then I'm going to have trouble connecting emotionally to these songs. And this was the particular song that made me realize that, oh, this show is kind of just fan service, huh? If you don't know anything about the show like I didn't, you're never fully going to understand what's going on beyond the surface level. I kind of felt left out of the loop for most of the show. It was like every character introduction was a wink to fans, and that was about it. A lot of the side characters served no purpose in the greater plot, aside from showing people their favorite characters, which was frustrating to me because I didn't know who these people are. And while the music gave me a good general idea of these characters and who they are, the story dropped the ball in properly introducing me to these people. That's why I say the songs want you to feel things that the story isn't making you feel naturally. Without proper build-up, these big emotional musical moments has little payoff. If I personally don't know Vaggie, which I didn't, I'm not going to care about her relationship to Charlie. And if I don't care about her relationship, then I don't care about her emotional song. And then what's even the point of having this song in the first place? Does that make sense? I feel like I'm not really making sense. If you get it, you get it. Since I'm kind of in a role, let's start talking about characters. The characters I like in the show are mostly based off of vibes. There's not a lot of characters in the show that is well developed enough for me to like them on any deep level. The list of characters I gave earlier are my personal favorites, specifically Husk, Angel, Lucifer, Vox, Alastor, Sir Pentious, and Velvet. Also, I feel like me not saying Alastor first would indeed get me killed by Alastor, or like a very strong glare. I'm a little scared. Anyways, I like these characters purely because of their personality archetypes. Most of them don't really do enough in the show for me to like them more than superficially. One of my biggest gripes with the show is how it acts like I'm supposed to care and know these characters already. The show doesn't introduce anyone or lets us really sit to get to know them. The only character that I felt was partially explored was definitely Angel for obvious reasons. Other than him, I still feel like I didn't really know any of these people, even after I watched the show. First, Vaggie. On paper, I should really like her. I am partial to the grumpy or overprotective characters. They're usually my favorites. So I expected to love her. I don't. I don't hate her, but I don't like her either. I don't really feel any particular way about her. Mainly because I don't know her. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I really want to drive home to the fact that they just didn't introduce anybody. It felt like she was in the background for most of the show. Her main purpose was to be Charlie's cheerleader and protector. That was kind of all she did. To be really honest with you guys, and this is a little embarrassing, them being a couple went straight over my head until episode 5. I had thought it was like a crush or a flirty thing going on. I didn't know that they were an official whole ass couple. I don't even think that Charlie even said the word girlfriend until episode 5 when she introduced Vaggie to her dad. Granted, that's kind of on me for being a little dense. It's pretty obvious on rewatch, but again, I came to this show with zero context on anybody. It would have been nice if their relationship was properly and plainly introduced in the first episode. Their relationship was hardly even a focal point until the last, 3-ish or 4-ish episodes? It was honestly barely acknowledged. They had no romantic chemistry or cute moments up until like episode 7 or 8. So I kind of give myself a little bit of a pass on that. Why did it take so long for their relationship to become relevant to the plot? And why did it take so long for her to just be announced as a girlfriend? Did she say she might have said it sooner? I'm not gonna lie, she might have said girlfriend sooner, but I didn't hear it until episode 5. She might have said it sooner, but I didn't hear it. There's honestly hardly any shipping material here at all. And before anyone says anything, I have no issue with cozy, pre-established relationship. This show just does it wrong. Even Spinderella and Natessa had more chemistry as a background couple than these two as a main couple. And those two were barely in She-Ra. You have to give me something to root for here, guys. Anyways, Vaggie as a character gave me nothing. Again, it felt like I was missing so much context in terms of her character and her past and her story. She was just an anxious, brooding background character to me. The one big surprise for her character was that she was an angel and never told anybody. However, that didn't do anything for me because I didn't even know that her being an angel was a secret in the first place. I looked at her, I looked at everyone else and thought, yeah, she looks like an angel. And I kind of just assumed that it was common knowledge that she was an angel. She even said, your people, when talking to Charlie. I thought that was just like confirmation that she wasn't a demon. So imagine my surprise when Adam pops up with this big secret that she's an angel. She didn't do a good job hiding it. This moment would have been so much more impactful if they put more emphasis on her hiding something earlier. Instead of her identity crisis and questioning what she is without Charlie, they should have focused on her anxieties of being discovered by Charlie. They didn't have to tell us directly, but make it known that she's hiding something. All that mystery surrounding Alastor should have also been given to Vaggie in some degree as well. Both of them are hiding things in plain sight. Alastor gets a proper mystery, but the whole Vaggie identity reveal had almost no buildup until she had to go to heaven, and then she started to seem nervous about going to heaven. And even though the reveal was supposed to be like this huge thing, it was kind of tacked on to this already super crazy meeting with the angels. Too much was going on in that episode for me to care about Vaggie. In that particular episode, her being an angel was the least interesting thing going on. I was more interested in this trial and finding out why they were allowing these exterminations to happen in the first place. I was way more interested in the heaven plot than her lying to her girlfriend, mainly because I don't care about them as a couple. Vaggie being an angel was totally overshadowed by the more interesting things revealed in that episode, like most of the angels not knowing about the exterminations and them not knowing what gets you into heaven. That stuff was interesting, but Vaggie didn't really care. I get that they wanted like a big dramatic identity reveal, but again, I couldn't care less. Aladdin did that whole dramatic secret identity reveal thing better than this show did. At the point when Charlie found out, there were only 2 more episodes left, and I know the show wasn't going to have Charlie stay mad at Vaggie for longer than an episode. They didn't have time for her to properly be mad at her for longer than that. So I didn't really care that Charlie was mad because I knew that she had to forgive her pretty much immediately for the show to go on. And I was right. She pouted and cried for an episode and then they were all good. So what was the point? We didn't even get the satisfaction of Vaggie making the choice to stand by Charlie and risk exposing her identity. Adam gave her a choice: protect her identity or stand by her girlfriend. This was a chance to test her character and show who she really is and what she values more, Charlie or herself. Instead, she kind of just runs away from either choice, which was so unsatisfying. Sure, some people can argue that her non-answer was an answer, but I wanted her to make a choice. That would have told us so much about her character depending on what she picks. If Adam was just going to reveal her identity anyway, then she should have just helped Charlie with the trial and stick by her girlfriend. Or she could have shown her true colors by sabotaging Charlie to save her own skin and help keep her secret. Either way would have been so much better than her just skedaddling out of there. Imagine if Vaggie would have just chose to sabotage Charlie, but Adam exposed her anyway, so now she's not only mad for keeping the secret, she's also mad for her betraying her. That would have been great drama. Oof. But no, we took the easy way out, as usual. I guess the only good thing that came from that storyline was finally seeing how these two met. It was very cute to see Charlie helping her after she was gravely injured. This show is in desperate need of more backstory scenes like this. Give me more flashbacks and context scenes like this, and I'll care more about these people. I really do want to care about them. I'm not just saying I don't care to be cool. I actually do want to like these characters, but this show just doesn't give me a reason to. They just expect me to give a damn. But no, my dams have to be earned, okay? Moving on to Charlie. I have a similar issue with Charlie. I don't know her as a character, which is a problem because she is the protagonist, or I think she is. She barely got any screen time compared to a lot of other characters. I get the basic traits of Charlie, right? She's the very typical optimistic do-gooder that goes overboard, but only because of her own deep anxieties. Basically, she's like Leslie Knope or a Janine. That's not enough for me though. I want to know why she's so hell-bent on making this hotel work. How did she come up with this idea? What is her relationship with Vaggie like outside of a work setting? How did her mother being gone affect her? And more importantly, what alleged daddy issues is everybody talking about? Because from what I saw, these are more so communication issues than daddy issues. I was waiting for her to actually stop and explain what is her issues with her father, Lucifer. To me, he didn't really seem like he was all that bad. He seemed loving, generally supportive, and overall a guy who wants to be in his daughter's life. Granted, he didn't have as much faith in a hotel, but as a father, I was like, okay, you know, he doesn't seem like a horrible person. This wasn't giving, as told by Ginger, daddy issues, right? This wasn't giving American Dad daddy issues. This was giving very tame issues. When people were constantly pointing out that she had daddy issues, I was expecting so much more. I was expecting to hate her dad, but the minute he came on screen with his rubber duckies and his depression, I had no choice but to stand. I loved everything about him. He was a sweet short king who happens to be the ruler of all hell. All he seems to want is to have his family back. So again, what exactly is the problem here? I was just so confused. The show keeps telling me she has daddy issues, but refuses to give me any specific examples of this. Why is she getting closure for a problem that's barely been talked about in the show? And that's why her alleged daddy issues were all solved in one episode. If all your problems could be solved with one heart-to-heart discussion, then babe, you don't have daddy issues to begin with. You're just two awkward, loving dorks who were just too nervous to talk to each other honestly. Again, communication issues. That's all. I really don't understand the problem. At least I don't understand it in the way the show presents their problems. Their relationship didn't feel as broken as the show tried to make me believe. Was the problem because he was absent in her life? And so then why was he absent? Why wait 7 years to speak? How long has she been dating Vaggie? Because this was their first time meeting. Was he not supportive of the hotel? Because he seemed more than willing to come and see it. Does it have something to do with her mother? I have just so many questions. I felt like once again I am missing a lot of context that the show is not trying to give me. It makes me feel like I'm crazy or not paying attention enough, but no, they just aren't telling me stuff. This show tends to skip over details and speed run relationships, and somehow I'm supposed to keep up with the constantly shifting dynamics. Charlie said that she's always admired and watched her dad when she was little, but she doesn't say what changed or what caused that division. I was assuming that her mother took her away, but what kept him from calling or visiting or showing up when her mom left? He seems like he wanted to come see her. So was it Charlie? Was she the one putting up the barriers and not him? I don't know. But I guess it really doesn't matter because they fixed their relationship in a span of an episode. Well, fixed is a strong word because again, it didn't seem all that broken to begin with. Distant and awkward? Sure, but not broken. The song was pretty great though and beautifully animated. I love that part, the really pretty cinematic music video that went to them making up. But I wasn't really a huge fan of what led up to that. Also, when she found out about heaven being shady, I was expecting more questioning of her core beliefs, or at least reevaluating her plan to try to send sinners to heaven, especially if she's seen the flaws of heaven. I was thinking that she would question her mission statement to even send sinners to heaven to begin with, but we didn't really get that, because we were kind of rushed into the final battle, and so we really didn't have time to unpack her shattered beliefs. My main issue with Charlie is that she feels like a side character in her own show. In fact, I heard the show is supposed to be women-led. Where? The women seem to be the most underdeveloped and uninteresting characters in the show. The guys kind of get all the attention and all the complexity. Well, as much complexity as a show like this can have. On paper, I should love Charlie and Vaggie, but they don't have enough material for me to really like them. Like I said, they barely had any romantic chemistry. We didn't really get moments of them just being their cute selves, which is so weird. This show can be very sexually explicit, but at the same time, it plays very coy about the romance between these two. There's a big difference between being understated and non-existent. I don't need them to, be PDA all over each other, but I want a little bit of affection between them if they are a couple. Again, there is a difference between understated and non-existent, and this relationship was kind of non-existent until towards the end when finally the relationship was actually a focal point in the plot. It's fine to love your male characters. I just don't like that they said that this show is female-led because it isn't. The girls are kind of pushed to the background most of the time and don't do much in the grand scheme of things. The male characters tend to drive the plot forward more than Charlie herself, who again is the protagonist. It almost feels like the girls just don't matter as much as the men in the show. I don't know if this is a writing pattern of the creator that's been called out before, but that's just how I felt watching the show. Now, if I actually wanted to watch a female-led show that was unhinged and funny starring two hilarious lesbians, I would watch the Harley Quinn show, which is so much better in every way. And guess what? I'm actually invested in both Harley and Ivy as complex lead female characters, and they both function in very similar archetypes as Charlie and Vaggie, and they do it so much better. Plus, their relationship is just cuter and more complex. I'd rather watch that. Anyways, if I'm honest, I'm kind of bored talking about Charlie, so let's talk about somebody else. Speaking of useless characters, no offense, but who is Twinkle Toes? She popped up several times in the show and I still don't really get why. Making her, a random overlord, be the one who killed the angel was so pointless. If I actually knew her, then I would care that she wanted to protect her daughters. But again, I don't. And her training session with Vaggie wasn't really my favorite either. The song was good, but it didn't make sense to me. I get pointing out her weakness with fighting. Angels fight like they can't be harmed. However, Vaggie knows that she could be harmed. She got her eye and wings snatched off, so why would she continue to fight like she's immortal, especially when she was so close to death? And also, how was she surprised that angelic weapons can be used to kill angels? Like, babe, you were mutilated and left for dead by an angelic weapon. I fear that should be common sense. Did she not put two and two together? Are all her collective brain cells being used solely on Charlie? Also, Carmilla kept telling her to fight for love, which isn't that what she always does? Vaggie can't go 2 seconds without mentioning Charlie's name. Her whole entire character revolves around the surface of Charlie. It's kind of an unbalanced relationship if you ask me. Anyways, if that's the case, then she technically always fights for love, right? So again, what was the point? I just think that they wanted a cool training sequence, so they used Twinkle Toes to do it. And I keep calling her Twinkle Toes because I like the way she walks. It's very pointy. It's giving Powerpuff Girls, you know? Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hate Mommy Dearest. She's a baddie, I can admit that. I just don't understand why she's here in the first place. It's like she wants to avoid war, yet she's constantly selling weapons in hell. I don't know, it just seems like a weird leap in logic. I just don't really understand her. I guess the one thing I am appreciative of is that she is friends with that cool spider looking guy who I know nothing about, but he seems really cool. I like that he's so ancient and old school, and I loved his kind of rapport with Alastor. So yeah, I mean, her interacting with him is probably her best moment for me. I guess her role is that she killed the angel, she got sassed, and then she trained Vaggie. And that seems about it. She's not even really connected to the main cast, so why? I'm also confused on why it took 1,000 years for the demons to try to fight back. So you're telling me that no one fought for their lives? Y'all never rose up against the angels? The angels just leave their weapons down there willy-nilly and no one figured this out? Not even the higher ups? A lot of the demons down there are very, very violent, but didn't try to take out an angel before? Honestly, why not fight back? Her reason for not going up against the angels are kind of flimsy, but whatever. Like, they're going to keep attacking you anyway. Might as well. I don't really care enough to think about it more than that though, so yeah. If I think too hard, I'll just get annoyed all over again, so we're just gonna move on to more interesting people. Speaking of overlords, I do wish the V's got to do more. I loved Fox because he's a petty bitch. He didn't get much screen time, but I liked his deep-seated, unfiltered hatred for Alastor, and how much he loses his mind over Alastor just existing. He's my favorite purely off of vibes alone. Mr. TV barely got any screen time, ironically, but he sure made the time he got count. He was very memorable, and of course I loved his duets. Velvet was such a queen, but sadly she got paid dust. She had no one to bounce off of and wasn't able to do much of anything, which sucks because she's the spunky, witty female character that we need in this show. I hope she gets more screen time in the future. I honestly thought that she was going to be recruited in the final battle against the Angels. She was the one who was very outspoken and wanted to kill the Angels. I thought she would have jumped at the chance to fight them. Her whole song was a battle cry from the younger generation to stand up and fight for power, but instead she just kind of watched with the rest of the V's on TV and did nothing for the rest of the season. This doesn't really help the lack of interesting female character problem this show seems to have. I can't believe they have a baddie like Velvet pushed to the background. You can't expose me to this absolute diva only to forget about her after her little song. Unacceptable. Valentino. How do I talk about him? Honestly, I kind of don't want to, but I'm gonna. He is a loser crybaby that treats sex workers like his property. Tale as old as time. He's both a pathetic idiot that has temper tantrums and needs to be soothed like a baby, while also being a scary, narcissistic abuser that terrorizes his victims to a scary degree. His personality switches as much as his accents. I don't really know how I feel about him in particular. His character is both hard to watch, but at the same time is played for laughs. And honestly, they managed to make a character so awful that I don't even want to laugh at the jokes he's making, even though they're kind of funny sometimes. Valentino is only tolerable to me as a character when he's around the other V's, aka his equals. I'm not saying his character is written bad or good, I'm just saying that he's hard to watch for me personally, which I guess is the point, but I don't know how I feel yet. I'm still trying to figure out what I think about him fully. I have a lot of mixed feelings about him. I feel like I have to watch more episodes and seasons of him to form a decent opinion about him. I need to process it more and just see where his character goes and what direction are they trying to take him and what stories are they trying to tell with him. For now, I'm kind of undecided, but truthfully, without Valentino, the V's wouldn't be relevant at all to the plot, which begs the question of why are they and the Overlords so prominent in the first place? They don't do much in the grand scheme of things, which is a problem when you have a show as bloated as this one. Anyways, I heard somewhere that Vox and Valentino were a couple. Is this true? Or is that someone's headcanon? It's so hard to tell what's canon with this show. I thought they were just like flirting, like flirty dancing. Are they actually a thing? Like for real. I genuinely am confused about that. Honestly, this show kind of makes me feel like I have a problem with understanding social cues. But is the problem me, or is the show just way too subtle about stuff? I don't know. I'm going to blame them because the problem can't be me. Obviously, it can't be me. Anyways, someone let me know in the comments if they're actually a couple or not, canonically. Not if you ship them, but are they actually a couple? I'm genuinely curious about that because I don't even know where I've seen it. I just heard it. Speaking of Valentino, I might as well talk about Angel. Angel is one of the only characters I felt like we got to explore in any capacity. We actually get scenes of him alone. We get scenes of him away from the gang. He's also one of the few characters that grew a bit emotionally. Most of the other characters we see in the show don't really get the same privilege. They don't even have solo scenes to themselves. The only people I really see alone are Alastor and Angel. I do feel like his character has the biggest emotional weight. We see his jealousy, his anger, his vulnerability, his protectiveness, and his self-destructive coping habits. If there was any character in the show that has any substance to them, then it would be him. I can definitely tell that he was a fan favorite by how much screen time he got. I personally really loved him. He was one of my favorites, obviously. He was one of the only characters that made me feel anything on the show. His struggles with dealing with Valentino's abuse genuinely hurt me. I really rooted for him throughout the show. To be honest, if it wasn't for him and a few other characters, I don't think I would have wanted to even watch the show. There were a couple things that did bother me though. One of those things was the sudden character development that he went through. After Loser Baby, I was excited for what would come next. Loser Baby was such a perfect bittersweet moment to both acknowledge the pain while also trying to make peace with it. That episode was clearly a turning point to move forward to a more positive-minded Angel. The beginning of him opening up to others and the beginning of his journey to self-worth. Let me reiterate, the beginning. I was expecting slow and steady progress from him at this point. I was expecting him to be more open and honest with everyone and slowly be more willing to help others. You know, all that good character development journey stuff. But no, that's not what we got. What we actually got was he did grow and change, but only behind the scenes. The next time he was a focal point was during the meeting with the angels. When Charlie said that she wanted to use Angel as an example of a good demon, mind you, the last time we saw him, he was very much at the beginning stage of being good, and Charlie wasn't even there to witness that. So I was deeply confused on why she would use Angel as an example of a changed person, because from what I saw, he didn't have time to change yet. He was mentally struggling literally 2 episodes ago. Come to find out, he actually was changed. I just didn't get to see it. He was trying to be sober, helping Stabby Girl out, sticking up to his abuser, which, don't get me wrong, I love to see it, but it would have been so much better to see how he got there emotionally in the first place. Husk even said that he expected a lot more from Angel and that he's made so much progress so far. When did that happen? When did this happen? When did Angel decide to get sober? Why did I miss such a critical character decision, like Angel deciding to turn his life around? The last time I seen him, he was just beginning to move in a more positive headspace. I was excited to see him grow, but instead, his growth was sped through in a span of 2 episodes. That was so disappointing for me. Half of the fun of any character development is the journey. Seeing how they got from point A to point B, that's what makes it worth it, you know? Angel, on the other hand, went from jaded, self-destructive, and fearful of Valentino to being protective, sober, and brave enough to stand up to Valentino in 2 episodes. I do love the change. Don't get me wrong. I do love the change, but it was way too soon with no build-up in between. There was no journey. He just changed. And that was the one thing I was really looking forward to. I felt like we just skipped to the end part of his growth. Angel going from self-loathing party boy to being good enough to show off to the angels was such a huge leap in his characterization. I was so mad about that off-screen development because I wish I was there. And that's not even the worst part. On top of that, you're telling me that I missed Husk and Angel bonding? I kind of shipped them in my head, if I'm being totally honest. Just like as a cute little fun thing, you know? Not really a serious ship. I just think it's like a cute little lighthearted ship that I have, right? Don't have any expectations. I just think, oh, it would be cute if they got together, right? So you're going to sit here in my face and tell me that I miss the moment Husk genuinely started to have faith in Angel's ability to change? So you're going to sit here and tell me that they got to a point in their friendship where Husk had the ability to be disappointed of him and expect a certain level of decorum from him? And Angel got to a point where he actually cared that Husk would be disappointed in him? I missed that? That was off screen? I missed all of my shipping material. I was sick. I was tired. I was sick and tired of the show playing in my face like that. Why would you do that? I never felt that much loss in a while. I lost all the cute moments of their late night bonding and talking and working through issues and deciding to get sober and him kind of being his sponsor in a way and them connect. I miss that. Get out of my face. Sick and tired. Ugh. I have never felt so betrayed by a freaking show. Anyways, I need to stop talking about that or I'll lose my freaking mind. I will lose it. And I'm trying to have decorum. I'm trying to be cute on my channel, okay? Well, the point is, I really liked Angel as a character. I do think they tried their best to depict a realistic portrayal of one type of abuse survivor. Not all types, one type. I'm not going to say for sure if it's a good or bad portrayal, and I'm not going to try and speak over people's concerns for his storyline. I've seen arguments for both sides of this debate. But I personally enjoyed his time on the show as a character. Again, he's one of the only characters I genuinely felt any type of emotion for. His song Poison really got to me to a point where I took a couple days off just to get myself together and not feel depressed before continuing to watch the rest of the show. To be real, his character was a bit much at first, but I quickly grew to love his personality as time went on. And once I started to understand that a lot of his personality is a front, I had a lot more empathy for him as a person, and that really got me to enjoy his character. See, and this is what happens when you let us see characters outside of just one setting. You get to know them and you get to feel for him. And honestly, I really enjoy Angel, especially his friendship with the housemates. So I'm really glad that Angel is a part of the show. And I am glad that he got as much screen time as he did. That way I was able to connect with him versus a lot of the other characters who didn't have much screen time, but they expected me to care. Do you see the difference? But as much as I love his character, I'm also really sad that we were robbed a chance to get to see his full journey. I would have loved to watch him unpack some things or truly confide in Husk more or see him bond with his friends, especially little Stabby Baby. But we kind of got none of that. And that was a total bummer. But at least I got to see him shoot angels and give Husk a little flirty side eye at the end. Y'all saw that? I'll take what I can get. Also, something that did rub me the wrong way, but I didn't really have a place to put it, was that in the same episode that Angel is finally confronting his abuser, they made a really distasteful essay joke with Sir Pentious, which I sort of felt undercuts their message in Angel's storyline. I'm not saying that you can't make dark jokes. This is hell after all. But there is such thing as a time and place, and this was not it. And I don't think there would ever really be a time where that joke would have been fine in this particular show. Because in a show that aims to show the serious emotional torment that comes with SA and how deeply it affects its victims, I didn't expect them to make a joke like that, especially in the same freaking episode as Angel finding the strength to confront Valentino, even though he knows he's going to have to deal with the consequences of standing up to him later. It just felt so tone deaf and in poor taste of the episode, especially in a club called Consent. Like, it was just the layers, it was pretty annoying. We could have done without it. It wasn't even funny. If you're going to risk an edgy joke, at least be funny. It wasn't funny. Anyways, let's move on to my boy Husk. Husk is one of my other favorite characters, but this one is mostly off of vibes again. Husk didn't get much screen time, but I still found him interesting. As you can tell, I especially like his relationship with Angel, platonic or otherwise. Angel constantly hitting on him at first was pretty annoying, but once they got more real with each other, I found their dynamic to be very fun and sweet. Even though they are a little crude to each other, Husk being more brutally honest and a little insensitive, and Angel being very sexually provocative and annoying. It's like, I still think that they work well together, you know? It's kind of like they both acknowledge, like, yeah, you kind of suck, but you know, we're cool together. And I like that dynamic. I'm especially interested in seeing how their dynamic develops. I'm also looking forward to seeing more of his dynamic with Alastor. He is the only one who is tied directly to Alastor because, of course, Alastor owns his soul. I want to see what they do with that dynamic, because the way he sassed him and the way he quickly backed down when Alastor wanted the smoke, yeah, I was fearful of his life. I was like, no, don't take Husk from me. I thought he was gonna get murked, but it's fine. He was okay, but geez, I want to see more of that. What is happening there? Like, he's very bitter that Alastor owns his soul. Fair, but I also am curious what it's like to be owned by Alastor, because you see what it's like being owned by Valentino. You're mentally, physically, emotionally, and every type of abuse. But with Alastor, it's just a lot of mystery with how he functioned, especially as a soul keeper. I'm also curious to learn more about Husk and his past. They said he was like a powerful overlord or something before he gambled his soul away, I think. That's what he said in the song. I want to know more about him in general and how all that happened and how does that affect him. I want, like, does he have any goons that he used to rule over that just remembers how he was? I don't know. I just have a lot of questions. I kind of want to know just how he deals with going from overlord and power to being someone's servant for life. I just want to learn more about him in general. Give Husk more screen time because there's something interesting there. I don't have much else to say about him besides the fact that I do love him very, very, very much. and I'll be looking forward to more content of him. Thank you very much. So next, let's talk about Snaky Boy. Sir Pentious was one of my favorite characters. I loved Snaky Boy so much. His enthusiasm to change for the better balanced out the rest of the more cynical group. Charlie can't be the only one who's a positive spirit in a hotel, so I was glad to have another cinnamon roll on the team. Plus, he made me laugh so much when he's on screen, more than some of the other characters. So imagine how shocked and appalled I was when he didn't make it out the final battle. I didn't care about a lot of characters in the show, but of course, the one character I took some comfort in gets killed. I nearly turned off the whole damn show immediately. Why? It felt so unnecessary. It truly felt like they needed a death to make the battle feel legit and decided to kill the least controversial character to make the war seem worth it. But at what cost? A lot of shows do this. They'll go into war and they feel like they have to kill off a character or it wouldn't feel like war. But why? Again, at what cost? This is like when Anya, a long-standing character in Buffy, dies in the last battle in a quick and very forgettable scene with barely any acknowledgement from the cast. It was borderline disrespectful how he got this lame, jokey death followed by genuine sad reactions by everyone. I was so sick of this show playing in my face like this. I don't care if he's not a fan favorite. I'm assuming, I don't really know, but I assume he's not like a fan favorite as much as Angel or Alastor. But I needed him. I needed him to lift the mood. This group is low-key insufferable without him. I needed his goofy ass to lighten everybody up. My poor Snaky Boy did not deserve that. You guys don't know how mad I was. Ugh. Oh. I almost started singing Danny Boy. At least he's in heaven, I guess. But still, why did he have to go? I loved his comedic nature and the energy he brought to the group. We barely got to spend any time with him as a character before they killed him off. I felt like we again skipped over all the changes he went through. He went from being a lame villain to a sweetheart pining over that cherry bomb lady, and then he gets the courage to make his feelings known before dying in the stupidest way imaginable. And when I saw his memorial picture with flowers, I was in shambles. Get it out of my face. I didn't want to see it. Granted, yes, he made it to heaven, which proves Charlie's theory that sinners can be redeemed, which I guess was the point of killing him off in the first place. I get it, but still, I hate it. I am so salty about that. You can't convince me it was good. You can never convince me that was a good idea. I don't care if it's selfish. I wanted him to stay. Also, what does it mean for Adam to die? If sinners can be redeemed to heaven, can angels like Adam get condemned to hell? How many times can you die? Can you triple die? All questions I hope gets answered. Anyways, as much as I loved Snaky Boy, I also felt like I was missing context with him as well. It was clear that he had a reputation for being a bit of a loser who can't win battles to save his life. He also seemed desperate for validation for some reason. He also seems to have a prior relationship with Cherry Bomb before the show even takes place. He said before that they've battled before and she's his nemesis. When did that happen? I feel like the show kind of skipped over showing me the part where they were enemies and went straight to them flirting. I love enemies to lovers, so I'm kind of sad that the whole enemies part was skipped over and went to the lovers part, you know? I wanted to see their whole love story before the final battle, not just give me like bits. Again, they showed this big moment of him finally showing his feelings for her, but me as a new viewer have little to no context for their prior relationship at all. There was no build-up really for me to have any reaction to this. It's like he didn't like her when she first arrived. He flirted with her at the club. Now he loves her. I feel like I missed a lot of steps in between. I get the general idea, but it would have been nice to see it develop for myself. Honestly, I would have just liked to get to know him a lot more before they killed him off. I hardly know anything about him, his life, his issues, what motivates him as a character, the little egg minions. I know nothing. The only reason I was so sad he died was because I personally liked him. If I didn't, then I wouldn't have cared if he died, which is a problem. Everyone should be affected, no matter if you liked his character or not. His sacrifice should have meant more to the story, or at least gave his friends a leg up in the battle. I wanted more of a full circle moment than what we got. Because his character growth happened off screen, I didn't get to see his journey to redemption, which is the whole freaking point of this hotel existing in the first place. Redemption is a key theme in this show. So why did we miss his whole redemption arc and just skipped to the good? No, it doesn't make any sense. I hope that at the very least, his death affects how the characters move forward emotionally in season 2. If not, then his death will just feel like a waste and was just used for shock value. And to me, that would be the biggest crime in this freaking show. Ugh, calming down. Anyways, we're going to move on to Lucifer. Now, Lucifer is low-key my hear me out character. I saw him and instantly thought, smash. They didn't have to draw him like that. That's all I'm saying. Fine for no damn reason. Charlie's mother had taste. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, I loved him as a character, obviously. Plus, 2 out of 3 of his songs were some of my favorites in this show. I loved his personality, his character design, how petty he is, and how interesting he was to the story in general. He has a lot of cool things involved in his character, like Charlie's mom, his relationship with Charlie, and of course being the ruler of hell. I was also interested in seeing how he felt only seeing the bad consequences of free will. Obviously, he was very depressed over it, but I would have liked to see more. I want to know how much guilt he feels over giving humans free will, especially since he sees the result of it every day. But we don't really get much of that at all. The only thing we got was his relationship with Charlie, and I've already said how I felt about that very extensively. As much as I love him, I do think that he's taken over a little too much at the end of the series. Let me explain. I wanted his issues with Charlie to be more concrete and fleshed out. I wanted to know more about his lore and his past with Charlie's mother. What I didn't want was for him to swoop in during the final battle to save her. First off, there is no reason for him to be late to the battle. Like, what does he do all day to make him late at all? Plus, if you knew your daughter was heading into battle, the least you can do is be on time. Besides that, throughout the show, Charlie hinted at having this powerful demon side to her. In the last battle, we finally got to see this side of her, but ultimately it didn't matter. Why? Because she instantly began to lose. It was almost embarrassing. One of her goat dragon thingies got cut down, and right after she was pimp slapped before she could do anything cool. She tried to hold her own, but even in demon form, she was getting mollywopped by Adam. I was embarrassed for her. Granted, she's not a fighter. I never said she was a fighter, but why make her go through a Sailor Moon transformation if ultimately it's not going to do anything? And to make it so much worse, her daddy had to come and save her. He made her a damsel in her own damn show. I love Lucifer, and sure, this was a cute moment in theory, but it just annoyed me in practice. It would have been so much cooler if Charlie was able to hold her own when everyone needed her. It would have been poetic to have a misogynistic jerk like Adam get beaten by a woman, especially since all he does is belittle and objectify women throughout the entire series. Or it would have been cool for her to fight alongside Alastor or alongside Lucifer to take him down. Alongside. You see what I'm saying? This was a chance for her to prove herself and make me root for her in battle, because I wasn't really rooting for her before this. But finally I'm like, okay, give me a reason. Give me a reason to love you. But instead, Lucifer just kind of hijacks the moment. He doesn't just fight alongside her like I wanted. He ends up pretty much taking over the battle completely, leaving Charlie again to be useless to the narrative until she tells her dad to show Adam mercy. I get it, you want a Lucifer versus Adam because it would have been poetic in a biblical sense, but in terms of the narrative, I would have preferred it be Charlie. Sure, she did block a punch, but that's about it. I didn't really like it. I wanted her to step up, but she just let me down. Plus, it didn't matter because Adam just got shanked by Stabby Baby at the end, which annoyed me further because after Sir Pentious, I was in no mood for another joke death. I wanted him to suffer. But no, he got a little shank, and then he's dead. As much as I love Lucifer, and I really do love him, I do think that his involvement did take away from Charlie at a certain point. But you know what? Oh well, I'll take the screen time, whatever. I still have no choice but to stand. Moving on to Alastor. Alastor is clearly mommy's favorite child. He gets so much love and screen time that it almost feels like it's his story we're following. There's a lot to love about him. He's mysterious, petty, he has a sense of humor, and is a scary demonic overlord who smiles when he eats you. He's the most interesting character because there's no rush to speedrun his character development like Angel and Sir Pentious. Granted, there was a moment when they made Alastor genuinely care about the hotel in episode 5, only to kind of backtrack in episode 6, but besides that, he stayed cool and mysterious throughout the show. I do love everything about him. I love that the more we learned about him, the more questions pop up. I'm very interested in his involvement with the overlords and of course his involvement with Husk. I'm also curious of how he got involved with the hotel in the first place. How did he meet Charlie? How the hell did she get him interested in any of this at all? I also wondered what he was like in his human life. Obviously bad, he's in hell, but I want details. Mimsy seems to remember his human life, I believe. So it kind of begs the question, does everybody remember their human life or just the higher up demon? I'm just very curious. I have a lot of lore questions when it comes to Alastor. And that's good. That's what I'm supposed to be feeling. That's what I also should have been feeling with Vaggie's character. But again, Alastor is clearly a favorite of whoever is writing this show. He's another reason I want to keep watching this show, to learn more about him. He's so cool and funny and a little nightmarish. I love that he always seems to be smiling no matter what he's feeling, and that he has his own secrets and motivations. I love everything about it. I also love his old school radio filtered voice. The whole modern TV versus the old school radio bit was really fun to watch. This man refuses to even be perceived on a TV or a camera, and I love that. I do wish we got more of the Vox and Alastor dynamic. I wanted to see more of their feud. To be clear, I know why Vox hates him, but I would have preferred to see it rather than hearing a story from Vox. I would give anything to see the fight that led to this big rivalry. Overall, I love Alastor's character. He's by far one of the more interesting people on the show. However, I do think that the love put into his character could have been shared with the other characters that needed it more. He doesn't add too much to the overall plot, but still takes up quite a bit of screen time. All I'm saying is share the attention a little bit. It's not a problem to have a favorite character to write for. However, when the quality of one character vastly outshines the other characters, I do think that some rebalancing needs to happen, especially when your main characters are kind of boring in comparison to this side character. That's all. Either way, I love him. This show is full of cool character designs and interesting personalities. However, most of the characters lack substance or purpose outside of aesthetics. This show assumes that you're already familiar with these characters. It makes no attempt to properly introduce them to anyone or give any backstory to their relationships. I never felt like I actually got to know anyone by the end of the season. This show desperately needs moments of downtime. This is why so-called filler episodes are so important. That downtime is usually used to develop characters and their relationships to each other. Without the slice of life aspect, it just feels like we're rushing through plot points without slowing down to watch these characters just be themselves naturally. It was hard to keep up with the constant shift in dynamics between everyone since all of their character developments happen off screen. It felt like I was just shoved into a bunch of complicated, ever-shifting relationships without any prior context to who these people are. I don't even know how or why Angel Dust or Stabby Baby got to this hotel in the first place. I don't know these people. I don't know any of the overlords or why they matter. Again, I feel like I'm always out of the loop with this show. It's hard for me to theorize or have fun thinking about these characters when I'm still trying to find out basic information about them. What's the importance of Mimsy or Cherry Bomb or Carmilla? I want to know so that I can appreciate what they bring to the show. I'm not saying that you should reveal everyone's backstories all at once. I'm just saying give me enough context to follow along. For example, Cherry and Angel seem to have a very deep friendship with a lot of history, but I only hear about some of it secondhand in a one-off conversation. I thought bringing back Angel's old friend would bring more lore about him as a person to the show. I thought, okay, we get to know Angel more through her, but we don't get that. Cherry didn't really add much to Angel's characterization or much to the show at all. All she really did was tempt Angel and become Snaky Boy's love interest. Also, Mimsy said that she's been friends with Alastor even back when she was human or something to that effect. I could be wrong. Anyways, I wanted to know more about that because she left just as fast as she appeared. I wanted to know why him not taking Mimsy's side meant so much. I want to know why the relationship is so important. And if I know how important the relationship is, I will get the weight of what it meant for him to choose the hotel over her. But since I don't really know her or the relationship, I didn't really care that he didn't choose her over the hotel. Do you see what I mean? I want to know why these side characters are significant, but the show kind of refuses to tell me. I shouldn't have to do homework or look all over the internet or look on Reddit or look on YouTube comments for basic information that should be in the show in the first place. I should be just as caught up as a lot of the fan base, but I'm not. I feel honestly so far behind. To put it plainly, these character relationships to each other should be explained more. Character analysis is what I do the most on my channel. It's what I live for. I love character arcs and changing dynamics and complicated relationships. Those are my favorite stuff to talk about. Sadly, I can't really do any of that with this show, mostly because I've never been so confused about a cast of characters before, and I'm the same person who just made an almost 2-hour video on a side character on Bob's Burgers, so I don't think I'm the problem. Ultimately, it's a problem with the writing of the show. The lack of clear focus is the worst problem the show has. It's a shame that we've missed so much bonding and character development that we could have gotten. No matter who your favorite character is or what ship is your favorite, we all lost quality material because of this writing choice. Y'all should be just as annoyed as I am. Now let's move on to story and plot. This is where things get really rough. Long story short, this show is so bloated with half-baked, rush, and underdeveloped storylines. The character arcs and pacing of the show is sped through to fit everything in. Because it's trying so hard to fit so much into 8 episodes, nothing feels satisfying. This feels like 3 seasons worth of content stuffed into 1 season. It's too much going on and hard to focus on anything. It's truly a narrative mess, especially if you're like me and have zero context for anything in the show. This show was way too ambitious for its own good. Because they tried to cram so much into a short amount of time, the quality of the show suffered greatly. I often felt like there was never any time to sit or fully understand what's going on. Charlie making up with her dad was an example of a storyline I believe was extremely rushed. Their relationship was mended before I could truly understand what their problems were in the first place. I was still processing meeting her dad for the first time when they started to speed run the resolution. At that point, it just felt like the only issue Charlie actually has with her dad is her own self-inflicted daddy issues, which is not what I think the story meant to tell. You can't really have daddy issues without the issues. You gotta expand on the issues for it to be daddy issues, you know? Angel's storyline went from starting to heal to a changed person in the span of a couple episodes. This show just tends to skip a lot of emotional stepping stones to get to these big moments. The emphasis on these big moments just fall flat when you're still not clear on how we got here in the first place. That's a clear problem with the writing. Don't get me wrong, those big moments were beautifully done visually, very cinematic. They would make great individual snapshots on social media, but in the context of the show, it just never landed for me. The world building in the show also fell flat. I mentioned a couple times that I'm not a part of the fan base. I'm repeating that because there's always that one person in the comments who don't listen and just assumes that I'm just skipping over all these important details when I'm just reiterating to you, I don't know the important details because the show doesn't tell me. If it's not in the show, I don't know, okay? This show lacks any form of introductions of any kind. I don't feel like I know much about how this world even works. I don't really know much about the overlords or how they function in the world or their purpose in the narrative. I don't really understand how the overlords work as an organization, and I still don't really get why demons just allow these exterminations and just accept it instead of fighting back. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of character lore that the show just expects you to know, and they don't bother to properly introduce anybody to me, not even the main characters. This show fails to connect to general audiences and instead focuses on catering to a very dedicated online fan base, which makes sense because it was born online, but still, if you're going to make a show, you need to connect to everyone, not just your fans. The people who followed the show online for years, joined discords, and followed the creator religiously or watched interviews will not need those introductions, obviously. They are already well embedded in the world of Hazbin. But for people like me who relies on the show to explain things to them and to get invested in the world, I didn't feel like the show does a great job at that. The general audience wasn't kept in mind when making the show, only the hardcore fans, which is fine for the fans, but for everyone else, good luck trying to follow along what's going on, because they're not taking any time to explain anything to you. You kind of just have to accept what they say and accept the world for what it is, which is frustrating to people like me who feel like they're constantly left out of what's going on. I shouldn't have to do homework and research to understand what's going on in the narrative. Everything felt like an annoying Easter egg that I just didn't know. That's what the show kind of feels like. The plot was too stuffed with too many storylines and attempts at character arc. Everything just happens too fast. At first, I thought they were just scared that they wouldn't get another season, so they tried to fit everything into 8 episodes. But at the end of the 8th episode, they announced that season 2 was already in development. So did you already know you were getting a second season? If so, I don't understand why they had to rush through the plot so much. In either scenario, stuffing the show with everything at once was the wrong choice. If you thought you only had 8 episodes, the best thing to do is to cut some of the less important content, even if it hurts to do it. If they would have just cut some of the storylines and access characters, then the show would have been better for it. On the other hand, if they knew they were getting a second season, they should have relocated some of that plot to the second season and focused on the core cast in season 1. That way, we would get to know them as people and have a chance to connect to them authentically. Season 1 should be used for character development, world building, establishing relationship dynamics. Season 1 should be an introduction to the world of Hazbin Hotel and its cast. If you are short on time, prioritize on what's important. Instead, they kind of just throw you into the deep end and expect you to know everyone and everything going on. In the very first episode, we're already in the hotel trying to make a commercial for it. How did this hotel start? How did we get Alastor involved in the first place? How did you get Angel Dust to agree to be here? Where'd you find Stabby Girl? All of those questions I had was just glossed over. Husk and Sir Pentious are the only 2 people that I know for a fact why they're here. Husk is forced to work for Alastor, and Pentious was here voluntarily after getting caught as a spy. But everyone else is there because the show says they are. Why? How did Alastor get involved in this? I'm so curious. I understand that he just wants to watch this unfold, but still, how did you even get in contact with him? Do you see what I mean? And he's a super powerful demon. How did you get him on your side in the first place? I don't even know how her and Alastor relationship started. And the show kind of just yeah, he's here. This demon overlord who is super scary and well respected and was missing for 7 years. Yeah, no, he works for this hotel. Why? But of course that doesn't really matter because the show says he does, so he does. Whatever. I'm sure that the more seasoned fans already know why he's there, and I'm sure the pilot on YouTube would answer questions like that. But again, I shouldn't have to look elsewhere for simple questions like that. Besides, the fans can't even decide if the pilot on YouTube is canon or not. Some say it is, some say it isn't. I truly do not know. But I shouldn't have to look for the pilot for answers, especially since episode 1 should have been the pilot, or at least the redone pilot. If it's non-canonical, redo it. If it is canonical, just add it. I don't know what to tell y'all. After I'm done with this video, I am going to go watch the pilot on YouTube because I'm curious. But the only reason I haven't yet is so I had an unbiased view in this video, because I know if I would have watched the pilot, it would have influenced my feelings on the show, and I didn't want that to happen. I wanted my feelings on the pilot versus the show to be completely separate, so I didn't watch it. My point is, because there's so much plot going on, nothing got to shine on its own. We had running the hotel, the angels meeting and everything to do with the angels, Adam in general, the exterminations, the who killed the angel storyline, the angel death storyline involving Valentino, Alastor existing, the V's, the overlords, Vaggie's drama, Lucifer's drama, Charlie's mystery mom, and also the characters in the hotel interacting with each other and trying to grow, all in 8 episodes. That sounds like 3 seasons worth of stuff, and when there's so much stuff to cram in, there isn't much time for simple details. Also, I noticed how fast the premise was abandoned. I was looking forward to hotel shenanigans and seeing Charlie trying to make her hotel successful. I was expecting emotional pushback from Angel, group bonding, Charlie trying and failing, stuff like that. But no, we kind of just went straight to the heaven stuff and never fully returned back to the hotel premise. I knew heaven wasn't going to be a great place in this show, like Charlie believed it was, but I didn't think that we'd be challenging her worldview so fast. I wanted her to be delusional for at least most of the first season. Granted, she technically didn't turn on heaven until the meeting, but I didn't want the notion that heaven wasn't great to be in the very first episode. If I'm being completely honest, I would have preferred if all the heaven stuff was in the second season instead, especially the big war. I would have liked if season 1 focused on the hotel, the main friend group, Alastor, the V's, her dad, and Hell's world building and basic lore in general. We could have actually expanded on Charlie's alleged daddy issues since y'all wanted her to have them so bad. The meeting with Adam and the who killed the angel mystery could have been towards the end of the season to be like a season finale and kind of lead into season 2's heaven theme. Throw in some backstories and red herrings and you got a great first season. The heaven storyline would have hit so much harder if we spent the first season with heaven on a pedestal only to reveal them to be morally questionable at the end. Sir Pentious' death would have hit harder if we would have spent a whole season watching him grow from cowardly to courageous. Vaggie's big angel reveal would have hit a lot harder if we spent a season hinting that she had a secret that she was actively keeping from Charlie. The war definitely should not have been a season 1 thing. That felt very premature. It almost felt like someone on the team just wanted to do a big fight and have a big death, but it was too soon in my opinion. Also, I didn't realize until the heaven fight that those 8 episodes were supposed to represent 6 months of time passing. 6 months in 8 episodes is crazy work. I honestly thought days or weeks were passing between episodes, not months. That would have been nice to know sooner. No wonder everything was skipped over and moving so fast, especially the characters. I was genuinely shocked when the angels showed up and said it's been 6 months since the first episode. Because why did you wait so long to inform me that these big time jumps were happening between episodes? Why did you even decide to do that is the real question. Probably to get to the big fight, if I'm being honest. These are great story ideas, but you have to give them space and give them time to grow organically. Everything was done way too early for any real emotional impact. Pacing like this can really kill a show. This show is just very lucky to have such a loud and dedicated fan base to support them regardless of the show's quality. This show was so impatient with their own story. They skipped details in favor of doing these big cool things that really hurt the show in the long run. This show is full of cool characters and fun concepts with very little storytelling to back it up. It almost lacks substance, which kind of hurts me to say because I really did enjoy this show, but sadly it kind of feels like all looks and not much underneath to actually hold it up. The show lacks a certain amount of grace. Like, come on, slow down, stop being so impatient, let things breathe, and I swear your story will be told in time. Hazbin Hotel is such a fascinating show. There are some parts of it that are just so cool and innovative. Then there's other parts that are rushed and messy. But even through all that, well, mess, there is a lot of heart there. There's a story trying to be told, but it's kind of being rushed through. I definitely see the potential of this show. It just needs time to be able to tell that story effectively. I believe this show has the potential to be fantastic, one of a kind, special, if it just slowed down and focused on a few big storylines at a time and stop trying to rush everything. Trying to juggle so much is doing nothing but making this show come off as sloppy and disorienting. This show makes such fun, out of this world music, but struggles with making a cohesive TV show. This show struggles with pacing, character arcs, storytelling, world building, tonal issues, and in general has too much content. This show also over relies on songs and has trouble with dialogue in general. I also feel like this show is scared to sit in negative emotions or situations for too long. They quickly rush to resolution without letting the situations become an actual problem first, basically solving problems as soon as they arrive. Also, you never really get a break or downtime between plot points. I always felt like we were rushing to the next thing without fully processing what just happened. I barely had time to digest a situation or enjoy the main cast without something major popping off, which can make this show feel tiring and almost emotionally draining. This show is in desperate need of downtime and filler episodes. With as much ranting and complaining as I did in this video, one might think that I hate Hazbin Hotel and I just want to tear it down and blah 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 blah. That is the opposite of the truth. I low-key kind of love the show. Even with all my complaints, I still find this deeply flawed show very entertaining and even fun to watch, even if it's just for a drama I'm watching. Hazbin Hotel is just one of those shows that's better if you don't think about it too much, which is kind of hard for an overthinker like me, but it's doable. Hazbin Hotel has a lot of flaws, but there is a chance to make things better with season 2 and beyond. I hope that the criticisms from the fan base are taken to heart and used to improve upon the show. The love from this fan base is very passionate, and I honestly love to see how much love people have for it. I have nothing but respect for the love and commitment people have for this project, especially after knowing how long it took just to get a season 1. Just the show existing is a miracle within itself. So in no way am I trying to tear the show down. The fans are the main reason I gave this show a shot in the first place. And I don't regret my decision to watch it at all. In fact, I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna watch it a few more times. This show does frustrate me, but in a very loving way. I love the visuals. I love all the comedy in this show. I'm a big fan of the designs and the songs and the overall vibe of this show. Sadly, the writing is what drags the show down so much, which is a shame. I want the show to do better, and I want it to have so many seasons, and I want to get invested, and I want to see where everyone goes. I want to learn about everyone. I don't want this show to be canceled. I don't want it to be abandoned. I want it to improve and to become the best show it can be. And I hope that this video came across that way. No matter what, I cannot bring myself to dislike the show. In fact, I'm excited to see what happens next. I want to see what these characters do. I want to see what happens. I want to see Lucifer again. Also, if you want to fill me in on any lore-based questions I had in this video, feel free to, but try not to spoil too much though, okay? Just remember, I am an outsider looking in, so if I didn't get everything 100% right in this video, just know that it wasn't on purpose and it wasn't malicious. I'm not trying to tear down your favorite show and make it look bad. I just want to talk about a show that I watched and that I really enjoyed but also was really frustrated by. It's not often that I have such complicated feelings about a show, which prompted me to want to make a video in the first place. I don't really know much about the Hazbin Hotel community aside from the fact that you guys are very passionate about your views. So try to keep it cute and keep it demure in the comments, please. Thanks for listening to me talk extensively about this crazy show. I cannot wait to learn more about this show and learn more about the lore. And honestly, I kind of want to watch Hell of a Boss now, which I don't know if I'm going to regret, but I do want to watch it. I'm curious. I am very curious about this cinematic universe I just stepped into. I kind of just blindly walked into such a crazy world, and I want to see what happens. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!